Hi, Colin. Welcome.
Hi, Carlo. Thank you for having me.
So it's been a while. It's good to see you. You look
Yes.
healthy. You look good.
Thank you, man. Same to you. It's great to see
Yeah.
you.
So your new single came out. Was it Geronimo?
Geronimo, yeah.
Yeah. How's that been?
Awesome, honestly. It's been creeping up 15, 20,000 streams in
Oh,
between there. First week and a half, 2 weeks of the release.
amazing.
So that's usually, I'll get a little bit less than that. So this is like kind of gaining
Progress.
momentum
Mhm.
and steam and stuff like that. So
Right. Do you think that's from, it coming off of the album a little bit?
I think possibly, yes. I think it's more about staying consistent.
Mm.
So we had because I say we as in you worked on the album with me.
Right.
So I had the album release in October of last year, so it's been a little bit over a year. And then, just dropped 8 songs this year with the eighth being Geronimo, which just dropped, 2 weeks ago. So I think just the consistency of constantly releasing, and you build momentum, etc.
How many
So
years has this been for you now?
making music.
Yeah, total. Like go all the way back. When was the first time you started and like why did you even start to begin with? I don't know if I know too
Wow.
much of your backstory, to be honest.
Before we go forward, can I take this off?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just took off his shirt, first layer,
Yes, yes, yes. First
and
layer.
give it 10 more minutes, the next layer's going off.
So, how did I start?
Yeah.
Well, I've always been a fan of music.
Mm.
Always been a fan of hip hop. Well, music in general, but hip hop was kind of the genre that I gravitated towards the most growing up. Do you want me to start from there, or do you want me to start from when I
Honestly,
actually?
I'm just curious about like your origins of deciding to make music because I know
Okay.
a few people that in high school would do like rap battles or like in the cafeteria. Was that you?
I wasn't doing rap battles, but it did start in high school.
Freestyles?
Freestyles, yeah.
Yeah.
So what really started was it was weird because I always like was very good at just writing. I used to write stories and read books.
Mm.
Like when I was a kid, like I'd obviously play sports and do all that type of stuff. But then I would also, my stepmother would get me like, those booklets from like the dollar store or something that are like the crossword puzzles and the word searches. And I
Mm.
just like to like do that stuff. So I always had like a knack for words and just I don't know, I was really good at
Were you good at
English,
English?
very good at English. That was like my best subject in school. So, that's kind of where it started. And then one day I just got off the bus from school. This is before I had my license. I think I was 15 or 16 years old. I went home and like I would always just go on YouTube, listen to music, chill out, maybe play Xbox with my friends, whatever. If it wasn't during like, baseball or basketball season.
Sure.
So I went and I just started like listening to instrumentals
Mm.
and stuff like that,
Like
just
like
randomly one
type
day.
beats on YouTube
No, like, there's a song
or just like
called
legit instrumentals of
legit, like, so of famous songs at the
got
time,
it.
of
Got
popular
it.
songs at the time.
Mm.
And for whatever, it was like something weird came over me. I just like went on YouTube. I was like, I'm gonna look up instrumentals today.
Mm.
So, Headbands by B.O.B.
Uh,
was the popular song at that particular moment in time. So I looked up the instrumental to that, and then I just like started writing, and that was kind of wasn't the first time I ever wrote something like music wise, but it was like I did it when I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old, but I
mm.
didn't know what I was writing about. I was just writing.
Right.
Like I said, I liked to write. I was good at English, but that was the first time where I purposely went home, looked up an instrumental, looked up a beat like with music behind it and
Yeah.
actually wrote to it. And then I went to school the next day or the next week, I don't remember, and kind of recited it on the bus on the way to the school
Oh
with
man.
my friends. And then when they started to like it, I saw the reactions. Then like that weekend, I think there was a party or something. And then in front of like 20 or 30 people,
Oh,
I
you
like,
went live.
yeah, recited that freestyle that I wrote, and then everyone was like, "Yo, this is actually like really, really good. Like, we really like this." So I was like, "All right, maybe I'll try and go home the next week and
You
write
got the
another one."
bug.
I got the bug right there. That was
Wow.
it.
How
So,
was the first song?
I mean, I don't remember. According to my friends, they still like it to this
Do you have a
day.
recording of it?
No,
You have
no,
nothing? No. Wow.
uh-uh.
Oh man, I wish you
I
did.
think I wrote it on paper. It wasn't even in my phone in my
Mm.
notes or anything like
So
that.
after
Just
that, did you realize that did you initially realize like after you did that live, thing at the party and your friends started liking it, did you realize that this was a potential career option, or is this just something that you wanted to see further, or you wanted to investigate more?
It was never like a career thing
Mm,
at that moment in time. It was never like this is, you know, gonna be what I want to do for a living. It was like, all right, I love music, right? I love
mhm.
writing. So you put two and two together, it's like, oh, all right, I do that one thing, the one freestyle, then I come back the next week, do another one. And then you, like you said, you catch the bug, you get better at it, and
Mm,
then you're like, before you even realize it, you're just like, it's a hobby,
yeah,
obviously, at that point, but you're like, I'm getting good reactions out of this. Like, I'm getting better every time I write new stuff. And it just like, just it was a domino effect. It
amazing.
just, song after song, freestyle after freestyle.
Who
It
did you
was like,
who'd you gain inspiration from? Because when you're writing, you obviously have listened to other artists before. You may have liked a few, or like, where do you think your style may have stemmed from originally? Do you think you could pinpoint to anyone or any?
yeah, definitely 100%.
Yeah.
The Beatles,
Mm,
just in terms of like songwriting and feeling. My dad put me onto the Beatles when I was a kid. I think they're the best band. They're my favorite band of all time. My dad used to listen to U2 and Pearl Jam and
yeah.
Neil Young.
Mm.
Then on the flip side, my mom used to listen to like the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson. She used to listen to like Bon Jovi and Prince.
Sounds like my mom.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, it sounds like my parents. My dad, I used to listen to Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin,
Yep.
all those, and then
Yep.
my mom would be Jackson,
Like
Michael Jackson,
like more pop
Bon
music.
Jovi. Yeah, it's literally the same.
Bruce, my mom's a big fan
Yeah.
of Bruce, obviously, like around this area too.
What about rap? Anyone in particular influence you,
So
like when you
that,
were
yeah, so
starting?
that was my first introduction to music.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have people like Eminem
Mm,
and 50 Cent and really early 2000s T.I. and Lil Wayne and just everyone like that. But like when I really started to get into hip hop and wanting to learn, because I was always like, I want to learn about this genre. It
mm.
was never like, let me start rapping or let me start making hip hop music and like, let me just, I wanted to learn about the genre where,
The history of
the
it.
history of it. I
Yeah.
was so fascinated with this genre of music and just everything that came with it, the fashion,
Mm.
just
Yeah, the
everything that
culture
encompassed the
of hip
culture
hop,
of
rap.
hip
Yeah,
hop. I was
absolutely.
so interested in learning the beginnings of it,
Mm.
where I was like, yeah, like for example, there was a class my freshman year of high school. It was called Freshman Experience. The whole point of the class, you had to write one paper. That was the only assignment throughout the whole semester or whatever it
Really?
was. Swear to God.
Interesting.
You had to do research on it, and you had to,
Yeah.
do drafts,
Could
rough
it be any
drafts.
topic of your choice?
Any topic of your choice.
Okay.
I decided to write that paper on Biggie Smalls.
Amazing.
This is when I was 14, 15 years old. So it's like, and my brother, everyone will tell you nowadays, I knew everything about Biggie. I knew,
Mm.
his full name. I knew his birthday, the day he passed away. I knew, he got, murdered, he got shot. I knew what the gun was. I knew, like, I was looking into stuff with like Tupac and what happened with him when he got shot, whatever. So it was just, but even before that, I'm like talking like in the 70s with, Cool Herc and Grandmaster
Mm.
Flash and all these, just the beginning of the culture into the 80s, into the 90s. And then obviously me growing up in the early 2000s, I was alive
Yeah.
to, experience the hip hop culture at that time. But it was important for me to go back
Mm.
first and, learn everything, learn as much as I could, and just get as much inspiration as I possibly could as I started to kind of, embark on this journey of, oh, I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to be a songwriter. I'm going to make hip hop music. Like, let me make sure that I have, all my ducks in a row. Let me make sure that,
I love
I
that.
know what the hell I'm talking about and what I'm doing, even though it's from my own life experience. I need to garner some of that, like, past
Yeah.
energy in the past. I don't even know the word to say. I just wanted to feel like I was
Well equipped.
doing,
Yeah.
my due diligence. Sorry.
Amazing.
So
What after high school, or even what year was it again when you first started? You did that party. Was that sophomore year? you said?
Yeah, sophomore, junior year in high school. So I graduated 2014. So that had to be 2012, 2013,
So,
somewhere around
if
there.
you can move forward like a couple years after, maybe 2 or 3 years after that, where did you stand with music then? Did you then think it was a path that you wanted to pursue more than just a hobby? Or even now, do you still what do you consider music for you? Like, even now?
Well, I make, when I started making like pretty decent money with it, that's when I was like, okay,
Mm,
I'm going to put more focus into this. This is more than just, it was, a hobby at first, obviously. And even when I started to make a little money with it, it was still a hobby. Then I was like, all right, this is like a big
right.
opportunity for me to do what I love for a living.
How
Then
did
it
you
was
learn the
kind of
business
like,
side of it? Because I went to college for music production, music business, and, what is it, 360 deals and all that stuff is
yep.
like, uh, you don't get taught that immediately. You kinda have to go through it. You have to maybe find mentors or something. Like, how did you navigate the business side as you were coming up?
So I went to school as well. It wasn't for music, so just so I can give a little bit of context and kind of bridge everything together. Um, it was a hobby throughout all of high school, music. When I got out of high school, I went to Monmouth University,
Mm,
and I was a double major in marketing and management. So I went to college in business,
mm,
learning marketing and management. And not only would that help me with my music, which was kind of like in the back of my mind, it wasn't on the forefront of my mind, like, hey, I'm going to go to college so I can be better at business wise for music. It
right.
was more like, music was a hobby at that point when I got into college. This is around 2014. Um, and then, I started just getting really into it when I was at school. And then I was like, well, I'm majoring in marketing and management. Now I started to kind of put the pieces together. I learned how to like record myself
Mm.
and got my own microphone, got my own laptop, I got FL Studio.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my
I
first
never
DAW that I
understood
ever had.
FL, dude. I couldn't do it. Still to this day, I rock Ableton,
Ableton.
but I can never
Everyone,
understand
yeah, everyone
FL.
has their thing. I haven't. That was the first DAW that I ever used was
Mm,
Fruity Loops, and then after that, it was Pro Tools when I started to go to
right.
Ray's. When I was in college is when I started to go to Ray's house.
Mm.
So I think that was around 2016. A friend of mine that I grew up with, went to school with, um, went to Ray's. I was recording and doing my own thing. Like I said, I learned how to record myself. Um,
And at this point, did you have any music out, like, on iTunes, Spotify? Like, how do you have album
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, okay.
Yeah. The SoundCloud days,
Yeah.
the SoundCloud era. It's so crazy. Yeah, no, I did. The first songs that I recorded myself and mixed, myself were put on SoundCloud, and I remember the feeling. But it was never like, I'm gonna be, you know, famous. I never
Mm,
wanted to be. I just wanted to make music because I loved it, and then everything that came after it, it was, you know, just kind of a product of, I guess,
right.
the hard work and just doing it over and over daily. And then, when you get your first 1,000 plays or
It's a
so, I
big deal.
remember getting my first 1,000 plays on SoundCloud for one of those songs.
Mm.
And it was like the second song I ever put out in my
Oh,
life.
wow.
Yeah. So it was like,
That's
I saw
yeah.
like, I don't, wouldn't necessarily consider that success, but at the time, that's what it felt like.
Mm.
Still, even to this day, 1,000, streams or views or
Yeah.
plays
I
is,
mean, I say the same thing too about just if you think about 1,000 plays, and digitally, it might not look like a lot, but if you had 1,000 people in front of you,
it would be insane.
that's
If you
insane.
had 100 people in front of you,
Exactly.
you look around the room and you would be like, "Wow, this is a lot more people than I would have
Yeah,
thought." And
I think of that, and it puts it into perspective a lot when you think you're not, progressing. Maybe I think it's important to look at things like that because I say the same thing sometimes about views of like the stuff that I put out, or like even following. Sometimes is if I had this many people in front of me, I would be overwhelmed with
yeah,
this amount of people. It's crazy,
absolutely. And it's
but
never about like the numbers,
no,
and that's not like my point. It's
yeah,
just like the feeling of working on something and an idea that comes from your mind, like this
absolutely.
podcast and everything. This came from your mind.
Hmm.
Like you had this vision, you put it together, right? You record it, you do all this hard work, and then you put it out. And it's just cool to get the feeling of, okay, somebody's on the other end.
100% agree.
listening, no
Yes.
matter if it's 100 views or, 1,000 views, like we just
Right.
said. If you put all those people in a room, like we were saying,
Right. Yeah, it
it's
really makes a
it's
difference.
awesome.
I say sometimes as long as I can get one person to feel something from what I'm doing, it's an accomplishment.
Hmm.
Um, and I can, I'm curious about your style of writing, maybe how it's evolved from when you've started to where you are now. How do you think, do you, that's okay. Do you think your writing is like directly influenced by the trajectory of your life outside of music?
Now it is, yeah.
Mm,
So when I first started writing, it was more like I said, freestyles. And when I first started writing and making music, it was more so I just wanted to be kind of respected as a rapper. So what I mean by that is like I was really all in on the punchlines, the metaphors, like not really necessarily in the very beginning, not necessarily trying to tell stories, but trying to prove to people and really prove to myself, I guess, at the end of the day, that I could actually put words together that make sense and that are witty and
mm,
that not necessarily are talking about like my life. And the way that it evolved was, and I was doing really fast flows and really, it was really more focused on,
like
you know,
technical, the technique, I
yeah, it
guess.
was it was more like, yeah, the technique of like putting so many words
Mm,
together and doing it in a fast paced thing and having cool, metaphors and cool things to say. It wasn't so much, about my life or
mm,
any type of thing like that. And then it evolved into that. Still a little fast, still, with a flow, and I still have that to this day. But then I started to kind of slow down what I was talking about.
mm,
Kind of like, less is more type of thing.
right.
So, and that makes it even harder. It's harder to write that way
Mm.
because anyone can put a bunch of words together.
Yeah.
Anybody can.
Yeah. I feel
Anybody
like
can be
half
a
the
rapper.
time
You know
if
how many
it's
rappers there are today? You know how many artists there are
Yeah,
today?
yeah. So I think that's really important. The point that you bring up is storytelling.
Yes.
And to correlate that to kind of what I do in my industry is there's so many people out there that can shoot something and make it look beautiful. Like the image itself can look great. And
Hmm.
a lot of people can do that. But what a lot of people lack is the ability to tell a story and also make something look great as well.
Hmm.
I think that's similar to what you're saying is like people can, rap fast. They can put the two and two words together, make it sound great. But are they actually telling a story that can resonate with somebody? I think that I think that is really what can make you like unique.
Exactly. And listen, everyone has a story.
Mm,
Everyone has a unique story. It's just how you kind of present yourself and present your story and how, your style and all these different things go into it. And how you use your voice, how you enunciate things, it's just so technical. And I used to do that and just put all the words together. But then when you really start to dig, you know, deep down and you're like, I want to tell my story.
mm.
Because when it's all said and done, when, either I'm dead or like when I stop making music, but I will be dead when I stop making music because I'll never stop making music while
Right.
I'm, here physically on this planet. You want to tell your story. You just want to tell people of what you've been through, what you've seen, what you've experienced, maybe, or what a loved one has experienced that you've seen and how it affected you. And all the stuff that goes into, how to tell a story or tell someone else's story,
Right.
and they don't have an outlet. They're not an artist. They don't, a cinematographer. They're not, a rapper. They're not a singer. They don't play instruments. So they don't have an outlet to express
Mm,
their life and their experience. So like I like to take that sometimes and kind of put it in with my,
right.
with
It
my
gives
journey,
other
my
people
story.
a voice.
It gives other people a voice, yes.
Right. That's amazing. Do you did you find like a pushback from maybe family or friends when you wanted to pursue music?
Um
Is that or were they supportive from you? I always find this to be like an interesting topic because some people get like their parents were never a fan of it, or even to this day,
yeah.
they still don't want to hear it.
They'll
But
get yeah, they'll get pushback,
yeah, I'm curious what yours
Um
was like.
well, like I said, I went to college.
Yeah.
And when I started to like, you know, get my degree, and that's when I started to really get into rapping, I already had kind of that safety net. So from my
Mm,
personal experience, my dad and my mom and my brother, they all still to this day love it. My dad supports me.
That's
My dad's like
amazing.
my A&R.
Yeah, I
I
love
swear to
that.
God, he wears my merch all the times. He's going to like, he's retired now, so he's got a lot of free time. So he'll go and all these different, bars and stuff like that, and where there's live musicians
Yeah.
just around Ocean and Monmouth County. Oh, have you listened to my son's music? Blah blah blah. Here, he's like an A&R to me. He's like, I want you to, get in contact with this
That's so
person to do
great.
this, and he's always playing it. Like I'll walk into his house, and
Mm,
he'll be in the kitchen, he'll be in another room, and he'll be playing my music while and he doesn't know that I'm there.
wow.
So when I walk in, I hear him playing my music. I'm like, what are you doing?
Wow. That's amazing.
So my brother's the same way. My brother is always like making sure that I'm on top of my shit.
Yeah.
He's always like, "Are you going? When's the last time you went in the studio? When's the last
Mm,
time you went to Ray's? When was the last time you talked to Ray? When was the last time you wrote a song?" And then obviously I have other artists and people that are I consider family as
mm,
well, like Dom, for
right.
example. Me and him talk daily about just everything, marketing,
Mhm.
business, music. Obviously, mostly music, but like,
What is your perspective on like, like Dom or other people and the relationship between competitive versus collaborative and like friends?
mm,
Because like you're all in the same industry. You're all not necessarily, you're not competing, but there is a sense of that in a way. Like,
oh, 100%.
yeah, how do you manage that relationship?
I feel like the competition part of it is like a friendly competition.
Mm,
Like we want to see each other succeed
yeah.
no matter what, right? Nobody, in terms of a competitive sense, nobody wants to see, you know, you don't want to be more successful and see somebody else not be successful. Like you all want to be successful at the
Yeah.
same time. If, you want to see your friends be successful, you want to be successful.
Hmm.
So in terms of the competitive stuff with that, it's not really, we all want to see each other succeed in terms of like being on songs together. Of course, like Dom knows this as well, the same thing. Like we want to make the best song possible if we're collaborating,
Yeah.
right? And that's the thing. We have such a comfort level with each other, and we have so much experience being in the studio together where everything is just it's like nonverbal. Like we
Mm,
know exactly where we want to go with the song. What I know what he's thinking, he knows what I'm thinking. And like that's where the collaborative effort, comes in. But in terms of the competitive, side of it, like yeah, I want to write a better verse than everyone. I want to have the best verse on the song. I want to have the most memorable part of the song in there. But then I also want Dom or whoever it is to come equally as hard on the
right. I think
song or
it pushes you
yeah,
when they come hard. You got
it's
to come
healthy. It's
harder.
a healthy
Yeah,
competition.
love
That's what
that.
it's never like, um,
It's never
you know
combative.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's never like that. But like rap is a sport to
Mm,
me. At least that's how I look at it. It's competitive. It's always been competitive, like even kind of tying back to when I was doing research on the beginnings of hip hop. It was always competitive. DJs versus DJs,
right.
uh, break dancer versus break dancer, graffiti artist versus graffiti artist, who had the better art, and then obviously the rappers doing early rap battles, you know, who has the better verse, who has the better this, the better that. So it's always a competition, it's always a sport, but it's a healthy
Right.
kind of dynamic when you're like, all right, I'm gonna give you my A game. I'm gonna give you 150% every time I'm writing a verse on this song. And it only makes the other person, you
Right.
know,
Yeah. Come harder too.
come harder as well.
Amazing.
So
Um, I guess on the side of the competitive, I'm curious about the mental side of it. Because do you ever fear or feel that maybe you're not where you hoped you would be at this point?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I mean, to be honest with you, it eats you alive
Oh
sometimes.
man, I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, am I not doing enough?
Mm,
Am I, you know, letting, because a lot of people, family and friends, I mean, at least in my experience, once they kind of, fully accepted it. And like I mentioned before, they fully accepted it pretty much from the start because, like I said, I was also going to college and
yeah.
they're like, all right, well, if this music thing doesn't work out, but then I started to get really good at it, get attention, money, and they were like fully in on the music thing and they still are to this day. But yeah, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
No,
I
it's
just got
just
off track.
I'm curious about just how you kind of deal with maybe feeling like maybe you're not good enough or you're not where you hoped you would be. and it's something I struggle with all the time. So I'm
I
curious.
feel like I'm like this is what I was kind of circling back to. I just lost track for a second. I feel like I'm kind of maybe letting them down. They have these big
Mm,
expectations of me now that when they, like I said, when they accepted it, they were like, all right. And then all these good things started to happen to me in the music, realm,
right.
in my, career with
Hmm.
music. And they're thinking like, and if I don't meet certain expectations, I guess, like if I don't take that next step, or if my next song isn't as big as my last song, or whatever the case is, then it's like, and I don't know if it's in their mind. I don't want to speak for them, but it's almost like I feel like I'm regressing,
Mm,
or I'm not,
mm,
where I should be in the like I feel like I should be a certain, at a certain
right.
point, or I should have. And sometimes I do get caught up in the numbers. I can't lie about
Right.
that.
Yeah. I think we
And
all
that and
do.
that's never healthy. At least from my
From an
experience.
artist perspective, I think it's really unhealthy, and I struggle
Yeah,
with it all the
looking at
time.
other people's numbers,
Yeah.
saying, "Why does this person have this many streams, or why does this
Mm,
person have this many monthly listeners, and
right.
I don't, or why are they getting these opportunities and
Hmm.
I'm not?" And that's the wrong way to look
Yeah.
at it. And if you catch, I'll catch myself in that sometimes, and I'll have to just constantly ground myself. There's a lot of grounding and a lot of
Yeah.
constant reminders, and obviously you know
Hmm.
this as well. Like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're exactly where you need to be at this moment in time.
It's
You're
so
doing
hard.
everything right.
Yeah.
Maybe you might screw up here and there, and
But
not
that's
saying you
part
do.
of it.
Yeah,
But that's part of
that's
it.
part of the whole
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
That's how you learn. That's how you get better.
Mm,
Without any of those things, you would not be here today, like where you are.
right. I'm curious about
So.
this. This is something I noticed about myself. When I'm in a place of fulfillment, or I'm feeling like I'm progressing, I released a project, it's doing great. I'm feeling successful, right? Like at this point in time.
And that's all
I
subjective too.
exactly
It's whatever you think success is.
completely agree. And when I feel that, I'm in that mode. When I look at other people and they're doing awesome things, I feel super supportive. I feel great. But to flip that, when I'm not busy, or if I'm not doing great, or if I'm feeling a lack of fulfillment and I see other people doing great things, I have a total different mindset towards that. I almost feel like envious, feel guilty, or I feel jealous. Do
Like
you
you're not doing
like I'm
enough.
not doing enough? But it's totally based on where I feel like I am and what I'm doing. I don't know how to, if that's like an issue. I don't know if I could fix that,
I
but
have the same. I think in my opinion, I think it might stem from some insecurities, maybe, or
mm,
something like within your art.
yeah,
I'm saying, or within your work. Like you see someone else do this, and you're like, "Am I not working hard enough?
mhm,
Like, is my content or my music or whatever it is it not good enough?"
right. I think that's where a lot of it stems from. I think I'm
Yeah,
really hard on myself. Ha-
yeah.
ha-
When you're a perfectionist
Yeah,
at whatever you do, there's no such thing as a perfect anything.
right,
Not a perfect person. There's not a perfect piece of art. There's nothing that you can do that can be perfect.
right.
But as long as you're kind of striving for that every
Mhm.
time, then you're gonna be fine. But then that also comes with, it's like a double edged sword. It also comes with, oh, is it not good enough?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah, it's
never ending battle.
I made a video, and just like I did like a solo podcast, and I talked about, because I run through something recently where I failed at something really bad,
Hmm.
and it was a huge setback, and it's still haunting me to this day. And
And this is recently, you said?
recent, yeah.
Okay.
And I talked about it because it was almost like a therapy session for me, just like talking it out.
Hmm.
I realized that I hold such a high standard for myself, my art, my whatever I do, podcast, YouTube, DP work, whatever,
Hmm.
um, that being super ambitious and holding yourself to that high standard comes with the territory of you failing a lot more, because, or you setting yourself up for disappointment more because of how high you expect something to be,
Hmm.
or how perfect you think something could be. And I think I realized that the double-edged sword to that is, you see more failure, you see more disappointment, but you also see more success because you're taking more risk.
Hmm.
And I don't even know where I'm going with that, but um,
No, I
I'm
completely
curious, like
agree.
just what your take is on that, and I guess risk. Really, I think because what we do is pretty risky.
Risky.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no, like, you could. this could not pan out,
Mm,
next week. It's not like a 9 to 5 job where like doesn't matter what you do at work, doesn't matter how your performance is necessarily, you're still going to get a paycheck at the end of
mm.
the day.
Yeah.
If you're not like in demand per se, or if your, art or whatever it is you're working on isn't up to a standard, like you're not gonna be able to pay your bills. You're not
Exactly.
gonna be able to make any money. So then what happens? Then you gotta actually do something that requires that, takes your time away from your
Mhm.
passion and what you want. So yeah, taking the risk is like that's why I admire anybody who tries to do anything like this.
Yeah.
Because not only is it hard to do, like it's hard to write a song,
Mhm.
it's hard to set up a podcast. I know everyone thinks it's not like you have to do
It's
research. There's a
brutal.
lot of things that
Yeah.
go into it. People are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you just set up a camera and talk." Like, no, it's not like that. Like, there's a lot of research and stuff that goes in behind it. There's a lot
Yeah.
of hard work. And any creative passion that you have, it comes with hard work. It's
Mm,
not easy. In the industry, is even more cutthroat. It's
mm,
harder to break through in the
mm.
industry, any creative industry.
Yeah.
So I admire anyone who takes that risk. And you're going to fail 99% of the time, probably.
Right.
Most people fail, if not all people who try this,
Right.
fail 99% of the time.
I think that's a perfect segue into this topic. With the risk that comes with doing this, I I get nervous sometimes of what the future could look like of having a family.
Hmm.
And you are going to be a dad.
I am, yes.
I'm super stoked for you, dude.
Thank you.
That's like
I'm
really.
super stoked.
Are you excited?
I am.
Yeah, that's
I
amazing.
was a little nervous at first, but
Yeah.
like this was in the very beginning.
All
But
right.
now
So
that it's almost here,
when
I'm
is the baby
ecstatic.
due again?
January 19th.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, like actually 3 weeks. Like
Well, that's
I might get a
crazy.
call during this podcast. Like
Oh wow.
I'm going into labor. Like you gotta get
um,
out of here.
so how when you found out that you're having a baby, did it shift your mindset into like what you need to do as a provider? Or like did it shift your mindset into pursuing music or whatever?
It's like it's a switch that I've never kind of
Mm.
felt or experienced in my life before. And it was weird because like a lot of people, and this is like from what I've heard, a lot of people were saying, not a lot of people, a couple of people, I'm not gonna over exaggerate. They were saying like they thought it was gonna take my focus away from music.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, oh, he's not gonna want to work on music
Well,
anymore.
that's
He's
what I
gonna
was
have,
curious about was
yeah.
did you feel that when you found out you were gonna have a kid that music was gonna be on the back burner now? That you needed to
No,
focus on something that was more sustainable?
no, not at all.
Mm, I love that.
The switch was I'm gonna have a baby. I need to go 100 times harder than I was before. I
Ooh,
need to write a song right now. I need to
love
write a
that.
song tonight. I need to go look up beats for 4 hours. I need to call Ray. Hey, what's your schedule like next week?
Mm,
I'm coming in. I need to hit up a producer that I know. Hey, I've been wanting to buy beats from you for like 2 months, but I was if it no, let's work out a deal. We'll do percentages, whatever you want to do. We'll talk out the business side of it. Bam, send me the beats over. I already have the songs written. Let's go. I'm putting out 20 songs next year.
wow.
You know, like that was the thinking. Like I want to put out a song at least once every 3 weeks, once a month, and then I'll put it. Maybe a collection of songs
Mm,
here and there throughout the year, 3, 4 songs a piece. But like it made me want to go
way harder.
harder because not only do you want to have a more sustainable,
Of course.
life, obviously, and like we are saying, it's very risky what we do,
Mm,
especially to make like an income and make this a
yeah.
career rather than a hobby. It's a lot of money. It's just like I want to be someone that my daughter like looks up to.
Oh my god, it's gonna be a daughter.
Yes, I'm having a girl.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Do you have a name?
Luna.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
you're gonna have a little girl.
I am,
That's
yeah.
so
I'm gonna be a
cute.
girl dad, and I'm so excited. But I want to be someone, and that like the fact that it's a girl that I'm having a girl and I'm having a daughter is like it makes you want to be like she's gonna look up to me because I'm her
Yeah.
dad.
Right.
And what is that gonna look like for her,
Mm,
right? I want to be someone who's successful in what they do and they
following a
took a
passion.
risk
Yeah.
following their passion. There's like a lot of, in my opinion, like admirable qualities about taking that risk and doing something you love and it like working out after
Mm,
years and years of working at it and failing and learning and just everything that comes with it. And then you break through
yeah.
whatever that is. Like we said, success is subjective.
Of course.
So whatever that success is to me, and for me, it would be like making a sustainable living, getting respect from my peers and other people that do music.
Mm,
Um, kind of, it's not that I necessarily care what other people think, but I
mm,
guess there is. I would lie if I said that there's not a little part of me that wants that acceptance.
right.
So when I was doing, the research in hip hop, and I always respected the people that came before me. I respected the Nas's and the Jay Z's and the Wu Tang Clans
Mm,
and the Big Puns and the Big L's, etc. I could go on for days. The Andre 3000s, everyone, and I just wanted to like get to a point where those that are still alive, those legends in hip hop that are still alive, and the Eminems and the 50 Cents, all them, I want to be able to make it to one point where they like acknowledge the
mm,
fact that I can rap.
mm,
That was all I ever wanted from the beginning.
mm,
That was really it. And then obviously the priorities change as your life evolves. And now I just want to make a sustainable living. I still want that respect.
right.
I still want that acknowledgement from my heroes and my peers in this genre and in music in general, really. Um, but like, I just want to be someone who can provide for my daughter. I want her to, find a creative passion, whether it's music or not.
Yeah.
It's like a big responsibility, and that's the switch that I was talking about.
Mm,
The switch happens, and all those thoughts creep in your mind.
wow. Was it immediate?
Immediate,
Really?
yeah. And it was just like, I'm not kidding. It like lit a
Overwhelming?
fire under my ass. Like
Wow.
the next day, I was like, Ray, what's your availability next week?
Wow.
I'm going into the studio. Like, let's go. Dom, like, I'm coming over. Tomorrow morning or whatever it is. I'll come over in a couple days whenever you're free. Let's go. Let's record. Let's produce something. Let's do something.
Mm,
So it was like immediate. And it's been that way ever since. So it's been what, 7, 8 months, something like that?
yes. Was it 9 months for a baby to come?
9 months, yeah. So but we found out probably like a month or
Okay.
two in. So
Yeah,
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 probably the
yeah.
last 7 months. But
Wow.
that's like a constant. And you do have your days.
Of course.
Everyone has their days where they're not completely motivated, but then that's when the discipline comes in.
Mm. Speaking of motivated, I was gonna wait for the song "Motivation" to talk about that, but yeah, that song
That was
popped
a
off.
great
That one went.
segue.
That one went crazy.
Oh
That
yeah,
song.
that's the biggest
Yeah.
song that I have. Biggest moneymaker, biggest.
I was gonna say, it's on NBA 2K. It got played. Someone was walking out at a UFC fight.
Yeah, Aljamain
Um,
Sterling
yeah. Like,
walked out.
did you think this song was gonna pop off like this?
No, the whole thing was me and Ray were like, let's just get it on the video game. Like
Mm. Was
so
that what the intention was when you were writing it?
yeah.
Mm.
So like the actual intention of the song, I remember I wrote it at my mom's house on the couch. I was just sitting on the couch, and I was like, I saw United Masters, the company,
Okay.
and that's the company that like gets me all those sync placements.
Right.
So I hadn't had they're like a distribution company.
Mm. So sync
Um,
placement, is that like licensing?
yeah,
Okay.
sync licensing. So whatever visual, like if gets played on a
Sure.
commercial or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
you have your music in the background that's
Mhm.
synced. Um, so yeah, I was like, they had a NBA 2K thing, right? And I was like, excuse me, I was like, wow, this is like a great opportunity to get my music out there. I've played, that video game my whole life. I played 2K my whole life. Madden, 2K, all the
Mhm.
Call of Duty, all those games. And I was like, wouldn't it be like amazing to get a song on there, obviously? So I went with the intention, yes, to get it on the game. And the thing is that it didn't even get onto the game that I wanted it to get onto. So this was 2K21, I believe, or
Mm.
it might have been 2K20, the game.
Mhm.
And I made the song in 2000, end of 2019, October 2019. The game came out like a month after, and I didn't get on the soundtrack to that game. So I was like, damn, whatever. And the song was getting a little bit of streams and a little bit of, whatever. And I was like, all right, it's cool. Like I really like the song. I think it's a great
This
song
song goes
for
hard.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
that. And then the next year, the NBA started using it on their Twitter. So
Oh.
every highlight, like weekly, it was insane. Like every week there was different highlights from the games that
What did
day.
you feel when you first saw that first highlight?
Oh, it was like it was the biggest accomplishment I'd ever had in music at that point. I had songs with a couple, but before that, my accomplishments were the amount of plays I got because
Sure.
was very invested into that portion of it at that point, which was, you know, not the right
Mhm.
thing at that point. I still made music because I loved making music,
Yeah.
but after I was so invested in the numbers
Mm.
and that just comes with learning. Like that's not, where your head should be. But yeah, for the highlight thing, I was like, wow, this is great. And then it happened the next week. And I was like, holy shit, 2 weeks in a row. I
Yeah.
was like, they really must like this song. And it's the NBA had 30 million followers on
Yeah.
Twitter. So I'm like, this is reaching the eyes and ears of a lot of people.
Mhm.
Then it starts to, affect the streams, and the streaming numbers go up. Then a third week in a row highlights, fourth week in a row, et cetera, et cetera. And then I get an email that 2K21 is they're gonna put motivation on the soundtrack. So I made the song in 2019 to get on
20,
2K20,
right?
right? And I spoke it, I swear on my life, I spoke this into existence every day for a year, almost every day. The game out loud to myself. This song will get onto a video game, whether it's this one or whether it's the next one, whatever, it's going to get on the video game. I got the email. That was probably the best moment, like that trumped everything else.
Wow.
Cause I just sat back. I remember reading it off my laptop and I just like laid down and I was like, holy shit. I was like,
This is real.
the power of manifestation and
Mm.
speaking things into existence.
Right.
It's real. And then, start playing the game and then you hear it in the game and you're like,
Do you have the
holy
game?
shit. I have the game, yeah.
And when you play it, it's
All
crazy.
my friends, like kids I went to high school with and everyone are like messaging me like, dude, it just came on. We're playing in the
That's so
park. Like,
awesome.
we're playing, we just heard your song. It got us hyped
Right.
up for, to play or whatever. So I was like, that's really cool. Um, and then everything just started to snowball. Then
Mm.
people started to, big fitness YouTube
I was gonna
pages.
say, it started getting reposted, like, everywhere.
Yeah. And then, you know, Bradley Martin, the fitness influencer, was working out with Ronnie Coleman, the legend, and like that's another
That's so cool.
hobby of mine too. I like to work out and go to the gym. I like sports. I like music. So I
Mm.
was like best
Perfect.
of all, best of every world right there. And then the NBA started using it more in more highlights.
Mhm.
The NHL picked it up on like MSG networks for the Rangers. And then it just started to snowball and just it got bigger and bigger, affected the streams. Fitness influencers, like I said, started posting Instagram videos
Mm.
to it, listening to the sound, fitness YouTube pages, and it went
How
crazy.
did you keep yourself grounded during this time? Did you feel like you maybe were getting a moment of, like, overconfidence maybe? I'm curious, like, when
Mm,
you get something that's starting to pop off like this, like, it could be so easy to think that you're, like, the shit, right?
yeah, that never. I just wanted to make another one.
Mm.
My thing was, what's next? And then I made a song called Championship,
Yeah.
and that was to get on the next game
Mm.
because the next year, 2K22, they had the same opportunity. Hey, United Masters artists, like submit your song and I was like, maybe I could get on back to back soundtracks. They like the last one. Didn't happen. I didn't get on the soundtrack, but that song ended up getting on NFL Network, and they were playing it every week. So it wasn't more like, oh my god, all this great stuff is happening with this one song. It was more like I was so scared of like
Losing the opportunity?
losing the opportunity, and more so like I don't want people to just think I can make one good song and then
Right.
it goes crazy and that's it.
Right.
And then like the rest of my music career, oh yeah, remember you when you had that one little cool moment, your song got
Mhm,
on the little
mhm.
video game there? Like that's awesome, bro. Good for you. Like 20 years down the line, I'm
Right.
like, yeah, that was great.
Mm,
I was like, what's next?
mm.
Made another one. NFL Network, and then the UFC thing happened with Aljamain,
Yep.
and it was like,
Amazing.
yeah,
So it's cool to hear that when you wrote the song, it was with that intention.
yes.
When you write, let's go into the album a little bit because I got to spend what was it? I feel like it was 6 months,
A year
a
probably.
year probably.
Yeah.
Documenting the making of this album, and that was the first time I got to witness what it was like to make something like this. And I guess for that album, where did your writing stem from? What was the story that you wanted to tell with that album?
So first of all, I just want to start with I still think that that's the best thing that I've ever created.
That album.
Yes, that album.
I Dude,
In terms of like a body of work,
right.
like that album, I'm still to this day, me and Dom or and Ray, extremely proud of that.
I would be too. Even just me in the studio listening to you make it was truly an amazing experience that I got to be a part
It
of.
really was us 4, like, the whole time,
Yeah.
and that's why, like, I'm so grateful for that whole, experience, you being there to obviously witness it all and help me tell the story. So to answer your question, it was really like this was after the Motivation and Championship, all the
Hmm.
songs that I was just talking about, and I'm like an album artist. I like to conceptualize a project and tell a story, or if I'm not telling a story, I want to tell multiple stories in
Right.
a body of work. That's a lot of the things today are single driven, and
Hmm.
everyone's attention span is you know minuscule.
It's so short. Yeah.
It's insane. um
TikTokified. Is that what it's
yeah,
called?
people make TikTok songs,
TikTokification?
20-second snippets,
Yeah.
10-second snippets,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and like they put a single, and then the next thing, like for that album, I was like, I don't want to. And this was what, 2000? When did we start doing that? 2021?
I think so.
I
It
think
was
it
during
was.
COVID
Yeah,
because I think Bray was testing us or was
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think
The temperature
the
thing every
temperature
time we
thing.
walked in. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that was, I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yeah, but for that one, I was like, I don't like. I need to make this album because it was basically a culmination of like all past relationships that I had,
Mhm.
and kind of where my mind was. The years prior to the making of the album, when I was in school, when I was at college in particular, and these different relationships that I would have, and kind of how where I was at that point in my life, and how I was, treating these people, and it was just something that like really affected me in like a negative way.
Mm.
And I
Your
mean that.
perception of how you were treated, like you reflecting on it, made you feel like shit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was more like, listen, like I had these, women or people in my life that like I really, really enjoyed their company. Like they were
Right.
really nice, genuine people, and I just was not looking for anything at that moment. And this
Mm.
happened multiple times, and it just like I went about it the wrong way. And then in hindsight, you look back, maybe I should have did this different.
Sure.
Maybe I
Sure.
should have been more compassionate. Maybe I should have seen where they're coming from, how they felt. At that time, I didn't really take too much into their perspective and how they felt, and just went about it the wrong way. A little bit of immaturity. I had a lot of growing up to do, and then when I finally got to the point where I could look back in hindsight and matured more, and kind of just realized where I went wrong, how what I did wrong, what I said wrong. It was really not that the whole album was an apology necessarily. It was just more so telling all the raw parts and all the raw emotions that come with like different relationships and stuff like that, and the things that are said, the things that are done.
Feel like a form of therapy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Mm.
That actually is a perfect word. It was like a really therapeutic album for me to make, and it was you can't do that within one song.
Right.
That story could not be told
Right.
with one single or two songs. It had to be a full body of work. It had to be fully thought out, um, very like mentally and emotionally taxing
Yeah.
that whole year, like the making of the album.
Right. How do you when you have this backstory to make this album and you have this story and Dom's a part of it, Ray's a part of it, there's some other artists that are a part of it. How do you want to present this body of work to them for them to be a part of this project? Do you explain what your vision is?
Yeah.
Mm.
So basically, it's like for example, what me and you did. Like
Mm.
you were like, I get it, I understand it. I need to know, what inspiration you're pulling from. Like that's why I wanted you at the sessions, not only obviously because we wanted to shoot and kind of make this documentary of the making of the album, but like you were there listening and there for the
Feeling
whole
it, exactly.
feeling the
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
experience of it.
Yeah.
And so before I would go into a song or before I went into the album, I explained it to Dom. This is what I was going through at the time. And Dom, everyone can relate. It's a very relatable type of
Right.
thing, relationships, failed relationships. And when you're, a kid and you're immature, and not that I was necessarily a kid, I was a grown up. I just went about it as a kid,
Sure.
realistically. So it's like kind of owning up to that And everyone can relate to that. Everyone, there's no perfect relationship. I'm sure, you've had past relationships where like maybe you're like, you
Mhm,
know, it ended for whatever reason, and maybe
mhm.
I could have done this
It's a
different.
topic that people can all take something from and, you know, put it into their own life to be able to say something about.
And that was the whole message as to like how I kind of,
Explained it to people.
explained it to
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Mm,
And they got it immediately.
mm,
And then, I told them specifics.
right.
This song, I'm talking about this because this happened in real life, or I'm taking, you know, a a piece from this relationship that I had and a piece from that relationship, and I'm gonna commingle them into this song. And this is what happened here. This is what happened here. This is why I'm saying this. This is why it needs to be, conveyed in this
Mhm,
way artistically.
mhm.
This is why I need a singer on this. This is why the lyrics need to be like this. This is why, and it was all so meticulous
Yeah.
and so thought out that like everything had to have a purpose.
That is exactly what I noticed when I was there. The whiteboard, it had every song laid out, but every
Hmm.
time we would go there, there'd be a different color in the room, a different wardrobe, a different feeling.
Hmm.
Why did you have such a strong feeling to making the overall vibe a certain way, whatever song you were making? Or like, why were you so strict, maybe, during the
Hmm.
making of it?
I wouldn't have been able to make it anyway
Mm,
else. You can't go into an album like that where you're kind of being extremely vulnerable and telling real life stories about, how you hurt people in real life. Like these aren't made up stories. So you need to like feel that energy. Like we had a bottle of whiskey almost every session that we were in.
yeah.
And that's just for me personally, that helped me kind of convey my emotions and the pain really from experiencing all that. Um and it just made for, better songs. The colors that we had, it was
Mm,
just whatever the mood was. The wardrobes, you really have to immerse yourself in that
mm,
experience, and you can't do it any other way because then it would sound forced.
mm.
It would sound not genuine, not authentic. It wouldn't do the album any justice. It wouldn't do anyone any justice. It was like full, and I've never done that before with a project before. That was my first time doing that, like something like
Where'd you
that.
learn that? Is there an inspiration that you took from, like, somebody an
Yes,
artist that has done that?
Kanye West,
Mm.
100%. So one of my favorite albums is, yeah, he's the master at that.
Right,
My
he really
my
is.
my beautiful
Yeah.
dark twisted fantasy.
Okay.
So this was after the whole Taylor Swift thing. Everyone knows the backstory about that
Right.
album and the creation of that album. He goes to Hawaii. He kind of disappears from the rest of the world, invites all of his music friends. He like rents his house out and he starts making the album. He makes everyone dress in, black suits with the, ties, black
Mhm.
ties, and you can't be in the studio working on the album. All the engineers, all the artists that he had in there, producers,
Everybody.
songwriters, everyone's wearing that attire. Like he set up a mood, he set up a vibe. He had like a schedule every day.
Mm.
He'd wake up, go to the gym, do what he had to do, eat breakfast with everyone that he's working on the album with, make it feel like a
It's a community. Yeah,
community, like a
family.
family,
Yeah.
right? And then you go to the studio, and then you guys like the energy's up. You get, you want to be able to contribute to this experience.
Mm.
So it was like that's where I got it from. Because I looked at that, and he's done that for, a couple other albums too.
Do you think that's
Um,
gonna be your process moving forward?
for albums, yeah, I don't think I could do it any other way,
Mm.
especially after that experience, because the product that came from that, from doing all those rules and having those rules,
Right.
like that's where I got that from.
Yeah.
Was from Kanye for that album in particular, because he
Mhm.
had like signs in the studio, no tweeting, no phones,
Right.
no, we're only here to work on
Mhm.
music. Like, and there's a bunch of other funny things in there, and I like kind of took that and made my own rules with it.
Absolutely. And you're gonna fine tune it as you
Fine
get.
tune it,
Yep.
yeah. And but he had so many other people. Obviously, he had a major studio or
Yeah.
major label budget, and he's Kanye West, so he can get anyone he wants to work on the album. I'm not
Uh,
Kanye West, so it was really just me, Ray, and Dom, and then obviously you were there the entire time too.
mhm.
And that was the cool part for you. Like, what was, I know you kind of touched on it a little
Mm.
bit from how it was from your perspective, but like while you're sitting there, kind of setting up the camera, doing different angles, and just like watching this whole experience, were you like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why does he have rules written down? Why is there a
No, I
whiteboard?
actually think I understood it. I think there's something to creativity and structure. I think they work simultaneously with each other. And I know that a lot of creative people, I find that I am more creative when there are some boundaries set or where there's like some walls that I can work within,
Some
some
parameters?
parameters. And I think I realized that when I saw what you were doing, is that you were setting this kind of like baseline, you're setting the tone. And then this tone is where we can work within. And
Hmm.
then anything in between here is like free game, free creativity. But this is where we want to stay. So
Hmm.
I think I recognized that and I realized how important that was. And I noticed at towards the end that Dom and Ray stuck with it and really respected your decision to do that. And I think that showed a lot too for their commitment
Hmm.
to you and the project.
Yeah, that's why I'm eternally grateful just for that whole experience. And I'm so glad that you were there to be a part of it because you elevated that experience as well.
Mm.
Like, I don't know if I mean, I know we've had conversations about it. I was like, yo, thank you so much. The documentary was amazing. All the footage, all the stills you had were amazing. All the content that went with it. Meeting me out in
Yeah.
when it was
We
cold,
were
dude.
running on we were running on
Running
the
on in
boardwalk.
February, in the middle of February.
Yeah.
Like, just but like
That's the
doing
commitment.
anything and everything. And that's why like it was the same thing with the documentary. So it was like a project within a project.
Mm.
So like there was the part where we were going to the studio making the music and you were there for most of the sessions. But then there was like where me and you were making the documentary and trying to tell the story visually,
All right.
and that's a whole different
Yeah.
thing. Me and you had to have conversations about, okay, why do we want to shoot
Yeah,
this with like
exactly.
a limited budget?
Yeah,
We could have done a lot more. We could have done something crazy
of
with,
course.
but like I feel like that's where our minds kind of like, all right, we're working with this budget,
Yeah.
and we want
I
like
feel like
we
some
want
of
to
the
tell
best
this
work
story.
comes with having limitation
Yeah,
because you get to really push it as much as you can.
exactly. And
Mm.
that's where you actually have to like be creative, and
Yeah.
that's where you got to like push those
Yeah.
boundaries a little bit. Like obviously, like you said, with the parameters in the music, because
Mhm.
there was parameters with the documentary,
Exactly.
and it was like most like all the ideas I feel like we had, even if they didn't go into the final version
Mm.
of it, everything that we did, I loved.
Everything was thought out.
It was very thought out. It was very meticulous.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
like pinpoint, just like how the music was, and
Mm.
that's why I think, and that's why like the album. I still think that is like a longevity album for me in particular.
Mm.
Like 10 years down the line, if somebody goes and it's all about catalog,
Mhm.
building your catalog. If I have a song that blows up tomorrow, or a song that blows up next year, or in 5 years, they're gonna go back
That
down that
album's still
catalog.
gonna be there.
That album is still gonna be there, and
Yeah.
people are gonna be like, "This is a great body of work." So like, maybe they like one song. Oh, let me see how many songs this kid has.
Yeah.
I'm not just a singles artist. I can actually make a well thought out body of work,
I love that.
both visually
Yeah.
and sonically. I think, in
Mm.
my opinion,
Mm.
and I think, you know, years down the line, if it's not, appreciated now, maybe who knows the future
Mm.
if I get onto a major label,
Mm.
or that's not really the goal.
Is your
But
goal independent? Do you wanna have your own label?
yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
I think the goal is independent. I don't know about having my own label. I
How
think
do you
maybe
release music now? Is it just through yourself or are you
yeah.
signed to somebody?
No, I'm
No?
not signed to anybody.
Mm.
I never was signed to anybody. United Masters is like they help me out a
The
lot.
closest thing to it, yeah.
Yeah. So they'll get me the sync licensing placements like Juranimo, the song I just released.
Sure.
There's actually a cool backstory with that real quick. Me and Dom made that like 2 years ago because a movie company hit me up and they
Oh,
were like,
really?
yeah, like for Marvel movies, they do like the soundtracks and
Mhm.
stuff like that. We want you to make a song like Motivation or something like that. And we're gonna pitch it for like Marvel movies or whatever, blah blah blah. We're like, okay.
That's
So
so
me and Dom,
that's
yeah,
pretty badass.
yeah. So me and Dom get right to work. Dom produced that
Yeah.
song. He produced the beat. Me and him together, and we went to I wrote the song. Same thing. It was intentional, just like how the Motivation
Mhm.
and Championship was or were. And yeah, and then they never ended up using it. And then I, was thinking, I was like going back listening to some old songs like a couple months ago.
So this song's been in the vault for like a minute.
Yeah, and I forgot about it. And I
Mm,
was like, I listened to it again, and I was like, wait, I'm remembering the NFL stuff
yeah,
from last year, which, there's good money and there's really good money. You can make a solid career out of sync placements. I'm not
sure.
saying that's
Yeah.
all I want to do, but there's good money
But
in
that
that.
could be where the sustainability comes in.
And then it gives me room to create.
Create otherwise. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what motivation kind of did for me, and
Mm,
that's what championship did for me.
mm,
So I'm looking at Geronimo as kind of like the third installment
right.
of that type of thing. Okay, maybe the song will do this because, they've United Masters has, you know, is interested in like getting sync placements with Geronimo.
Okay.
So they hit me up about it, emailed me, and they were like, hey, can you, because they just need to know the producer splits. They want the
Sure.
instrumental, a clean version of it, things like that. So I send them that a couple weeks ago, actually. And then, here we are. They go and they pitch it. It could end up on an Adidas commercial, a Bose
Right.
commercial, whatever. They have
I was
partnerships.
curious. I was going to ask you if you've ever considered joining, like, because for me, I'm a part of music licensing. Like, I download music for my videos, like Music Bed or like Epidemic Sound or Art. Like,
And
there's
they
a
have a
ton of
whole
different.
library,
There's a
right?
whole
And
library
it's
of just
all
artists,
like copyright free. Like you could
copyright free
just,
music.
yeah.
Is that like a part of the business that you're interested in? Is that because
That was
there's
never, it never was until saw the first
mm,
couple checks from it, to
right?
be honest with you.
Because the one company that I work with a lot, Music Bed, I think they pride themselves on like growing the musical artist, like not just as part of like this licensing thing. Like there's a few artists that are really honestly amazing and they grow their own brand, they grow everything. But they have a part of their business that they host their music here.
That's probably the goal if I were to,
Mm,
for myself. Like, I want to be an artist outside of just the sync placements and
sure.
stuff like that. But like, maybe a part of my catalog is just good for that. Maybe some of the songs that I make are good for that, you
Right.
know, type of stuff.
Mm,
So, if it makes, good money and I enjoy making those songs, and I've gotten messages from people that, hey, this song has really helped me out. I was, depressed. I was down in life. This made me, start working out again. This made me do this again. This made me, get my ass off the couch
mm,
and do this. This made me, want to start, training boxing. This made me, so it's like not only is the song good, I believe that the
mm.
writing is good, the song itself is good. I think that people actually
Or feeling something from it.
like they actually get, a sense
Mm,
of, motivation
right,
from it, or they,
right.
whatever it
Love
is.
that,
Yeah,
dude.
no,
Love
no,
it.
yeah, I had
I
that too.
love it. I want to read this quote to you. I'm curious as to what you think of it. I feel like it's been going around a lot by Rick Rubin. The audience comes last. I'm not making it for them. I'm making it for me.
Mhm.
What do you feel on that?
I love that. I think it's absolutely 100% true. I love Rick Rubin. I love a lot of, his quotes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think he's 100% right. Um,
I think it speaks to authenticity.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, to even go off that point, I'm not saying that I make, songs like that just to, just to solely get on the video game. Like, yeah, that was intentional. That was the point. But it's like the song is for me. Like, I'm asking myself the same questions that I say in the song, that if a listener were to, listen to it, they'd be like, oh, like, I'm asking all these different questions in the song, but I'm also asking myself these same questions. What makes you tick? What is your motivation? Why do you do what you do?
Right.
So you have to answer that internally first. And to Rick Rubin's point, like, yeah, you need to make something that resonates with you. That's the reason why you're making it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can make something that you don't believe in yourself or that doesn't resonate with you. Um, it's you first. If you like what you're making and you like what you're saying and it's authentic to your values and your morals and who you are as a person, who you are as an artist, and you put it out, people are gonna know that. They're gonna feel that.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
something that you can't fake. So when the audience feels that and they connect with it, which is the really cool part about that song and all the different placements it got and stuff. It's like I really, live by those words. Like I ask myself these questions all the time. what am I doing this for? What
Mm,
is my motivation every day? And that obviously constantly changes. I want it to be have a sustainable life,
yeah,
all these different things. But now, touch it on like my daughter again, like
yeah.
she is another reason that gives me more motivation. And you can't just have motivation. Discipline, I think, is even more important than motivation.
Ooh, now we're getting there.
Yeah. Like
Discipline is
there's sometimes you wake
huge.
up and you don't want to write a song or you don't want to film something or you're tired, man. You're DP
I don't
work and
do
carrying around because you carry around a lot of heavy
Yeah.
shit. I
My
see
my
you,
back
like,
hurts.
dude, and maybe you're sore the next day and you're like, fuck, man, I don't want to.
Yeah. No, honestly, I feel that motivation sometimes is, like,
Not that it's not
not
important.
that it's not important, but you can only get by, I feel, with motivation when you're feeling good.
Hmm.
Motivation doesn't hit you the same when you're feeling like shit. What does is
Uh-huh.
discipline.
100%. 100%.
Mm,
And that's why I think discipline is more important than motivation.
yes.
Because to your point, exactly like you hit it right on the head. Like motivation is only good
You're feeling good.
when you're feeling good, when
Yeah.
when good things are happening to you, when your body isn't sore or your mind isn't
Yeah.
taxed by whatever is going on.
Yeah, like, I don't wanna go to the gym at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I do it because I'm disciplined to do it.
It's a force of
It's
habit.
a yeah.
And that's the thing, writing music and writing songs. Like sometimes I'll be like, I don't have anything to write about.
Mhm.
Like I have a writer's block right now.
Mm.
And then it's like, no. You know how you get out of a writer's block?
Fucking right.
You fucking write.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're
Yeah.
writing. You can write one sentence.
Mm.
Guess what? That one sentence didn't exist before, but since you
Right.
actually sat your ass down and started writing something, now it exists. And
Right. I
guess
think
what?
I think that comes with focus too, and it's something
Yes.
it how easily we get distracted. Like, you can get writer's block, and you could easily just like, "Oh, I'm gonna scroll on my phone now because I'm not feeling inspired or creative." But if you just decide to like, "Oh, I'm going to focus and write something," that first sentence comes, you immediately feel way more inspired to write that second sentence or keep going. So
And
I think it
that's
really has
all
to
it
do with
is.
focus.
It's in small increments.
Yeah,
And we're
absolutely.
all guilty of it. We all
Mhm.
go on our phones
Oh, yeah.
sometimes and you lose track of time and it's been an hour and then you're like, like
And you
whatever,
feel like
whatever I was
crap.
working on before, like you forget about it.
Yeah.
Where it's not as important to you because you're like, whatever.
Mm,
And then you go about your day or whatever you're doing. And then
right.
that idea that could have been a life changing idea,
Mm,
realistically, it just never exists
right.
because you didn't focus. You
Absolutely.
weren't disciplined. You didn't have motivation or whatever it is.
Mhm,
But like that's the biggest thing for me is staying focused, staying disciplined.
mhm.
Yes, when I'm feeling good, motivation is great, but those other two things, discipline and focus, are the reason why
You stay
I'll write a song
consistent.
that might change my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because what if, I was writing motivation or championship or whatever the song is or the album and I just, you know,
You didn't
ah,
feel like doing it one
I didn't
day.
feel like doing it one day and I was like,
Right.
yeah, whatever. Those songs wouldn't have existed.
Exactly.
And that's also what I keep in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Like, listen, you need to do this now because guess what? You write that
Mm,
one line, like you were saying, it makes you want to write a second line.
right.
Before you know it, you have a whole song and you're like, wow, this is pretty good.
Right.
You go in, you record it, you tweak it, do whatever, you put it out.
I always tell myself that me next year is gonna thank me for the work that I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
Like, the shit that I don't wanna do, the stuff that I'm like, "Ugh, I really don't wanna do this, but I know I have to." It's like the discipline thing. I always remind myself that, like, even me next month or, like, me tomorrow is gonna be very thankful that I pushed through the thing that I didn't wanna do today.
Hmm.
I think that helps me a lot in terms of discipline.
I
Um,
agree wholeheartedly,
I
100%.
have 2 questions left. The first is I wanna go back to the album real quick, and I'm curious as to if you could reflect on it and if there's something that you wish you did differently or something that you wish you could have improved upon on that album, what would it be? It could be artistically, it could be songwriting, it could be whatever it is, I'm just curious as to what you feel like you could have improved upon.
See, I really don't think anything, in my opinion, artistically. I don't think it's a perfect album. I definitely think, some songs could have been maybe a little shorter, like No Love
Mm,
to Spare, for example, could have been a little bit shorter. But I love that song and every quality that comes with it. I love the fact that it's almost a 5-minute song, whatever. I think the marketing for the album in terms of like, and more realistically, like the budget. I
Mm,
wish I had more money at that time, and I wish I put more money into the marketing at that time because that album is too good to. And
not get the
not that I'm saying it fell on deaf ears, but it didn't do what I expected it to do.
mm,
But like I don't really, you know, meeting any of those expectations is just
sure.
it's futile. Like I don't
Mm,
think that the album like I think I expected too much out of it. Oh, it's gonna get, 100 million streams in the first year or whatever the heck. Like I said, I was still focused on numbers
right.
instead of the actual story and the actual meaning of the album, which is why I look back on it in hindsight. The one thing I would change would be the marketing, but
Mm,
not the documentary, not what we shot, not any of the music that was made. Maybe songs could have been shorter here
mhm,
and there, whatever. Maybe I could have got another feature on it, whatever. But I think that that album is like amazing,
yep.
and I just wish it got a little bit more marketing pushed into it. And not saying that it can't. That can happen any day. Because guess what? Like a new fan, those are new songs to them.
Absolutely.
Like my old, like somebody that is introduced to my music, everything that I have is new to them.
Mm,
So it's that album. A person could discover me 5 years from now, 10 years from
right.
now, and that would be new music to them. So, I can never you can never stop marketing your music.
Oh man, I was gonna end on the next one, but like I think something that's really important on that topic is recently I've been seeing a lot of people talk about why do we only promote our work once?
Like you post it on your
You
story
like you post it on
once.
your story once, you post it on your feed once, and then you forget about it. You spend months, years working on something, and then boom, done.
Yeah,
Why do
Tyler
we
the
do that?
Creator. I don't Tyler the Creator said something like that. He was like, "Why?"
Yeah.
That was his question. He was like getting interviewed somewhere, and he was like, "Why do
Mm.
you pull something out of your mind and spend countless hours and money
Only to
creating it
share it once.
only to post it on your Instagram
Yeah.
story once or whatever,
Yeah.
or your
It's
feed once?"
I don't know. I find that to be interesting, but
I don't know. I think it's because we're always chasing the next thing.
mm, yeah.
Maybe because you're like, all right, that's over with.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
hopefully, I'll
Do you think
post
it
it to my story. Somebody famous sees it, it blows up.
mm.
All right, but I got to work on the next thing.
I wonder that. I also wonder, do you think there's like a awkwardness you feel maybe of continually sharing your work? You're like, you almost
You,
feel guilty of like,
yeah, annoying
I don't want to
people.
burden people with my work.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I don't know if you feel that way. I
A
100%
100%.
do.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? Like, but
Yeah.
why? Like,
Yeah.
who? And then you got to remind yourself, who gives a fuck what other
Right.
people think? Who gives a shit?
Right.
Like, you're doing what you love, and most of the time, like, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I guarantee you there's so many people out there internally that are like, I wish I had the balls to do something like that.
Mm.
I wish I had the guts to, you know, chase a passion and put
Absolutely.
money towards it and actually double down on it and say,
Absolutely.
and post it and post the artwork and
Mhm.
everything's out there for criticism. Everyone can critique anything that you do.
Mhm.
So it's like people are going to, especially nowadays, people are going to complain about it anyway. They're going to shit on you. They're going
Yeah.
to do whatever they can to bring you down from their own, insecurities, problems, whatever they have going on in their life. It's like
I agree.
if you're gonna get that anyway, why
Yep.
not just put it out and promote it? That's pretty much
Exactly.
the whole thing.
So I was gonna ask one more, but now I have two more questions.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
If you can think about so maybe a shorter answer, but I'm curious as to what you in your life at this moment, at this current stage in your life, what is success to you?
Hmm, that's an interesting question.
Because
Um,
it changes as your life moves
yeah.
in different
So
stages.
my definition of success, like a year or 2 years ago, is different than it is now. Obviously,
Hmm.
my priorities are different now. My life is completely different now than it was a year ago. Um, Success for me at this moment, at this point in time, is being able to, like right now, have a roof over my head,
Mm.
have a beautiful girlfriend, eventually, hopefully within, the next couple weeks or so, have a beautiful, healthy baby,
Yes.
daughter, um, and be able just to make money doing what I love, like where I can support my family. That's
Mm.
it. That's really it. That's what success is to me. Make sure that everyone around me, my friends, my family, is, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, making sure that I'm the best brother, son, partner, dad, like friend that I can possibly be.
Yeah.
That's what success is
Mm.
to me right now at this point in time. It's kind of the core of what it is.
Sure.
But I just want to be able to do what I love for a living, make enough money where I can support everyone. And if anyone needs my help with anything, hopefully, I have
I
I'm in
love
the
that.
financial situation where I can, help the people that I care about and that I love, and maybe fund something that they're passionate about,
I love
and
that.
just keep that cycle going. And that's pretty much it. It's not anything crazy, not anything over the top. I don't care about any material possessions, nothing like that. It's pretty much it. If
Mm.
everyone in my circle, my family, and my friends, and me, like if we're all good, everyone's good. That's good enough for me.
Love that.
So
Last question is, you're sitting there. The person that's sitting here is that sophomore version of you listening to that B.O.B. instrumental, rapping for the first time to your friends, and then going to that party in front of 20 people. You're sitting across from that version of you. What advice would you give that person?
don't stop. Don't ever stop. No matter what happens in your life, there's going to be a lot of doubt. There's going to be a lot of days where you want to give up. There's going to be a lot of days where you don't think this is the right thing. There's going to be a lot of days where you might be embarrassed about what you're trying to do. Just don't ever stop. Don't ever let the passion that you've had since I was, if I'm talking to myself,
Yeah,
since you were a kid, don't ever let that die. Don't ever stop making music. I don't care if you don't make a dime making music. As long as you keep that passion alive, don't ever stop making it. That's what makes you you. That's what makes you a great artist, a great person. Like music is one of the biggest things in your life. So just please don't ever give up on it. Don't ever stop. No matter how bleak the situation looks, just keep going. That's it.
beautiful.
That's
All
all I
right,
have to
man.
say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me,
Yeah.
man. I
So where
appreciate it.
can people find you, your music, share whatever you got?
Just C Henry, C. Dot Henry on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Colin Henry NJ on Instagram, through all socials. That's the same handle. So follow me, shoot me a message if anyone wants to work out there. If anyone has any positive messages to share, I love having conversations with people. So
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it.
thank you for having me.
Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, everyone. Have a great day. Peace out. So, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Creative Gap Podcast. Hopefully, you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, there are a ton of other episodes for you to listen to as well. Check us out on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to get your podcast, you can find it. And now that you're watching this, you could also watch the full video podcast on YouTube. Also, be sure to check us out on Instagram at Creative Gap for future updates, upcoming guests, and a lot of short clips. And if you want to support the podcast in a deeper way, feel free to join our Patreon community. And for those of you who already joined the Patreon community, thank you. And for those of you who are new to the show, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy it. And for those of you who have been here for a long time, thank you. So that's all we got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next time. Peace out.